the commentator is critiquing the policymakers in Germany without undermining Germany as a nation. In fact, he is prioritizing the best interests of Germany and its people above all else.
The irony, right? The irony that Western governments, Germany as well, they have been preaching about human rights. They have been preaching about rules-based order. They have been preaching about international law, international humanitarian law, and they have been intervening in other people's affairs, in other countries' affairs, breaching their sovereignty, imposing sanctions, claiming that a ruler A or ruler B or a people A or people B are not really civilized enough, and they are not really committed to the universal principles of human rights, etc., etc. Now that Israel is accused of committing genocide in the Gaza Strip, and the ICJ says that there is a plausible case against Israel, shouldn't Germany be at least a little bit more cautious? I mean, the government? Shouldn't they say, look, it's a difficult situation now. Israel is accused of committing genocide, and the ICJ says there's a plausible case against Israel. Like, shouldn't I be a little bit concerned about it? Who is the person advising these politicians? Who is the person telling them, no, you have to go now to the ICJ as a third party and tell them that I'm going to intervene on behalf of Israel and defend Israel and prove to the world that Israel is not committing genocide? Who is this person advising these politicians here? I mean, at least in front of your own people and in front of the international public, you have to come up and say that, look, we will respect the decision of the ICJ, and we will respect the decision of the judges because we believe in international law, we believe in the humanitarian law, and we believe that nobody has to commit genocide, and they have to be like France, for example. France said they will respect the decision of the ICJ, whatever is the decision. But Germany said, no, I'm going to come and defend Israel in this case. And now the irony is Germany is taken to the ICJ. So imagine the issue, the severity of the issue. If Israel is found guilty of committing genocide in the Gaza Strip by these judges, then Germany will be considered officially a complicit in committing genocide. And this will stay forever in the history of Germany. So is it worth it? Like, why would Germany come in defense for Israel and not stick to the principles of Germany and not stick to the reputation of Germany? In my opinion, this is why I criticize the politicians. Like, your job is to defend the national interests of your country and not other countries, and especially if other countries are committing heinous crimes. And even if this other party is your ally, it doesn't make any sense to put yourself in such a situation and put all the historical responsibility on yourself, moral responsibility, and also the legal responsibility. And if you lose this battle, you are putting the reputation of your country, your people, the history of your people in a jeopardy again. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's live streaming. I appreciate you all, guys, whether you're watching me on YouTube or on Rumble, and I would really appreciate it if you just hit the like button before we start this live streaming, because YouTube is suppressing the content as every time I speak about what's happening in Palestine, Gaza, and in this ICJ case. Those are very sensitive cases for YouTube, and they're trying to suppress this content. And especially when people like myself, we speak from the position of a journalist who wants to show you the other side of the story, or also show you the suffering of the Palestinian people. Apparently, it's not allowed for us to show you and tell you what's happening there. So I would really appreciate it if you support the channel by a like and also share this video with your friends. So it was important for me to play this short segment from the last live streaming because I was still thinking about it all day since yesterday, that how is it possible for these politicians to take such decisions and harm and put the reputation of their own country in harm's way, right? And I've been discussing yesterday also with a German friend about it, and it really strikes me. And also, I wanted to say at the beginning that this is a disclaimer. I'm criticizing policymakers, and those are individuals, and individuals can make mistakes. And I'm not here to undermine the national security of Germany, because I've been accused of all sorts of things, and the last thing I want to be accused of being an enemy of the German state, which I am not. I'm just a political commentator. And when I criticize a politician, I criticize his policy, and I don't criticize the nation or try to undermine the sovereignty. And if anything, I truly believe that some of these politicians are harming their own nations, and I myself am doing more to keep the reputation of Germany, the current Germany. Unfortunately, this is, in my opinion, the truth about this case. Now, today, Germany presented its case in the ICJ and tried to ridicule the case against Germany by Nicaragua, because Nicaragua yesterday presented its case and said that Germany has to stop the delivery of its arms, and also accused Germany of being complicit in a genocide in the Gaza Strip. Now, Germany today came and said those are ridiculous accusations, and also said that they have no legal premise, and also said that the weapons that they are delivering to Israel are for defensive purposes and not for attacking purposes. There were different arguments that I have read today about this. I didn't watch the entire session, unfortunately, but I have summarized it to you. So stay tuned for that, guys. I'm going to show you what the German legal team said in this regard. Now, when I was doing my research, of course, I would like to know what the German government thinks about this, because yesterday I showed you what the Nicaraguan government is arguing. And if you go to, for example, the Deutsche Welle website, which is a German public broadcast and partially funded by the German Foreign Ministry, their article says Germany presents defense at ICJ over Gaza genocide claim. And they start their article saying that Germany on Tuesday blamed Nicaragua for having a one-sided view of the Israel-Hamas war. I mean, this accusation can be reversed against Germany as well, because Germany can be blamed for having one-side view of the Israel-Hamas war as well, in favor or bias to Israel. Berlin was defending itself, has defended itself at the International Court of Justice against charges brought by Nicaragua that its support for Israel enables genocide and breaches of international humanitarian law in Gaza. The head of Germany's legal team, her name is Tanja von Uslar-Gleichen, she said that Nicaragua's case ignores facts and the law. This is the head of the Germany's legal team. She also said that Nicaragua's case was rushed based on flimsy evidence and should be thrown out due to the lack of jurisdiction, according to her. Now, she also said that the picture presented by Nicaragua is at best inaccurate, and at worst, it is a deliberate misrepresentation of the actual situation. This was actually said by Christian Tams, who is on Germany's legal team. Again, those are the German team's opinion about this case. So according to him, the picture presented by Nicaragua is at best inaccurate, and at worst is a deliberate misrepresentation of the actual situation. He said that no artillery shells and no munitions have been exported to Israel since October 2023, and this contradicts with a statement of a politician, a member of parliament, actually from the Free Democratic Party, the FDP, and this party is in the government coalition, and I will show you later that he said that they sent ammunitions to Israel. But the defense team, Christian Tams, who is in the legal team of Germany, he argued that there are no munitions in the delivery of the arms to Israel. So he also added that arms exports licenses are assessed case by case and exceed international requirements. He said, quote, "For every license that is granted, the German government assesses whether there is a clear risk that the particular item subject to licensing would be used in the commission of genocide, crimes against humanity, or great breaches of the Geneva Convention." So Germany's legal team also argued that the ICJ could not consider Nicaragua's request for urgent measures as it has not ruled that Israel is breaching the Genocide Convention. And this is inaccurate, in my opinion, because the ICJ said there is a plausible case of genocide in the Gaza Strip, and the decision could take many years. The final decision. So this means that Nicaragua or any other country cannot wait for years for the ICJ to come up with its final decision, because there is a plausible case and they're taking into it. So if there is an actual threat of committing genocide, then the countries who are signatory of the Genocide Convention, they have the obligation to prevent genocide before happening and not after happening, right? This is, in my opinion, is a flimsy, again, argument. Additionally, he highlighted that Nicaragua didn't bring its complaint against Israel. Nicaragua must establish that at least prima facie the court is able to exercise jurisdiction, and it cannot do so given the manifest absence of an indispensable third party, namely Israel. So Israel is not there, according to Germany, and why would Nicaragua bring Germany to this case? Israel has to be present in this case. But the matter is, this is a separate case from the South African case. The South African case is accusing Israel of committing genocide in the Gaza Strip. Nicaragua is accusing Germany of being complicit with a possible genocide or an ongoing genocide or a threat of genocide in the Gaza Strip. So those are two different separate cases. I don't know how they're mixing between them. He said the situation in Gaza is unbearable. Too many lives have been destroyed. Too many life plans shattered. We all want this to end, but this type of strategic legislation between proxies won't bring us closer to the goal. She's Anne Peters from the legal team of Germany. The court will likely take weeks to deliver its preliminary decision, and the bigger case could take years to finalize the final decision. Germany has been one of Israel's staunchest allies in the wake of the Hamas attacks. Our own history, our responsibility arising from the Holocaust makes it a perpetual task for us to stand up for the security of the state of Israel, Chancellor Olaf Scholz said days after the attack. So he used the Holocaust card in order to justify the staunch support for Israel after the October 7 attacks. Now, there is a short video, it's a 3-minute video from the Deutsche Welle reportage about this case. I think it's important for us to listen for both sides of the story, as I mentioned, and in this case, to the German government position in this regard. Let's take a look.
The International Court of Justice in The Hague. Judges here rule in disputes between nations, such as the current case brought by South Africa, alleging that Israel is committing genocide in the Gaza Strip. Nicaragua's case before the ICJ is separate but related. It claims Germany is facilitating an Israeli genocide against Palestinians, a charge the German government rejects.
Germany has not violated the Genocide Convention or international humanitarian law, and we will set this out before the International Court of Justice.
But Nicaragua says Germany's decision to defund the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency, UNRWA, is costing lives. Germany and other donors suspended funding after allegations some UNRWA employees took part in the October the 7th attacks by Hamas. UNRWA's head, Philippe Lazzarini, has called on Western states to restart payments. But among many politicians in Berlin, attitudes have hardened.
This director of UNRWA is the same guy who said he does not help Hamas. And afterwards, the world found out that under his headquarters, the infrastructure of Hamas was hosted, the servers, the IT stuff. And he said he did not know this. This guy is unbelievable.
Another focus of Nicaragua's case is military assistance to Israel. After the October the 7th attacks, Berlin increased approvals of defense exports to Israel. But there's a feeling in the Bundestag that Germany's role should not be exaggerated.
It's really small things. It is some ammunition. It is some...
Do you see here? He mentioned the ammunition, and this is from the government, and he's the FDP defense spokesman, Alexander Müller, while the defense team of Germany said that they don't send ammunition to Israel.
Some medical stuff for the military, but very, very low budget if you compare it to other military aid.
Berlin's strong support for Israel has led to questions about where the limits of solidarity might be. But some say the Nicaraguan government also wants to distract attention from its own human rights record under the leadership of President Daniel Ortega.
It's obvious because the day before Nicaragua has brought up this case, they were accused by some experts who brought out a report that accuses Ortega's government in human rights violations in Nicaragua, and that.
So this politician basically saying that Nicaragua is trying to distract the human rights issues in Nicaragua itself by bringing Germany into the court. This is so laughable, and he didn't even mention who are these experts, because it could be government-funded experts, quote unquote, in Germany itself, or in any other European countries who keep preaching other people about human rights, but when it comes to their government actions around the world, then nobody criticizes their government.
That's the way how Ortega and his government can deviate from this. The case is ridiculous.
The case before the ICJ could take years to conclude. In the meantime, few in Germany believe it will change much on the ground in Gaza.
Do you agree with me, guys, that the quality of the politicians in the West in general has decreased? Like, this politician, he couldn't even make a solid argument. This is any political commentator in Germany could make a better argument, in my opinion, in defense of his government and in his country, if they want to, right? Or the policy of these politicians. And he first said that they sent ammunition, which contradicts with the argument of his own defense team in the ICJ. And secondly, he tried to underestimate the amount of weapons they delivered to Israel. They said it's a very little amount. And now, because one of the commentators asked me who sells the most weapons to Israel, first comes the United States and second comes Germany. And I'm going to show you now from a report on the BBC, the delivery of the arms to Israel. So, what the main argument of Germany today in the ICJ, in the starting, let's say, of the opening speech of the German legal defense team, was about the Holocaust. And this is the main issue or the main argument that they start as the opening speech. And she says, our history is the reason why Israel's security has been at the core of German foreign policy. Let's take a look.
Germany has learned from its past that includes the responsibility for one of the most horrific crimes in human history, the Shoah. This explains one of the principles upon which our foreign policy with regard to all Middle East issues rests. Our history is the reason why Israel's security has been at the core of German foreign policy. In her speech to the Knesset of 18 March 2008, Germany's then Chancellor Angela Merkel spoke about Germany's special historical responsibility for Israel's security as part of Germany's raison d'etat. Federal Chancellor Olaf Scholz reiterated this point in his speech to the German Bundestag on 12 October 2023. I quote, "Our own history, our responsibility deriving from the Holocaust, makes it our permanent duty to stand up for the existence and security of the State of Israel. This responsibility guides us."
This is a very, very weak argument, to be honest with you. And this is Rob House. He's a professor at New York University Law School. And he says, Germany's agent weakens case by admitting that Holocaust guilt is the overriding consideration in putting Israel's security beyond other normative imperatives. This raison d'etat, her own words, of Israel's security above all else versus international law. So the Germany's past and the guilt of committing Holocaust in during and before World War II is not a legal argument. You cannot use it in the International Court of Justice, right? And it cannot override international law. International law overrides any other local laws, for example. But in any case, this is not even law in Germany. And the German government was asked about this case, whether or not this raison d'etre is it's in the law. Is it a law? Is it in the constitution in Germany? And this actually question was delivered to the Bundestag, which is the German federal government, the federal the parliament. And this is what the government said. They said that the Bundestag's technical advisory service ruled that this Stadträson is not to be understood as a legal term. And I'm going to show you this is from the Bundestag's page. I'm not bringing anything from my own. So you can see this is from the German Bundestag website, and this is a document from the German Bundestag, and this is the question about the zum Begriff der Staatsräson im deutschen Recht. So they say der Begriff der Staatsräson findet weder im Grundgesetz noch in einfach gesetzlichen Vorschriften den deutschen Rechts Verwendung. Er ist daher nicht als rechtlicher Terminus aufzufassen, which means in English that the term this reason of state is neither used in the basic law nor in simple statutory provisions of German law. It should be therefore not be construed as a legal term. It's not a legal term, it's a political term used by Angela Merkel, and it's not in the laws and regulations and the constitution of the German side. So despite that, the German legal team used this as a legal argument in the ICJ, which I think the Nicaraguan team will be able to debunk that, or probably the ICJ will not take it into consideration anyways. Now, if we move to the delivery of the arms part, right, of Germany. Germany at the ICJ, they said that Germany always been a strong supporter of the rights of the Palestinian people. However, Germany is the second largest supplier of arms to Israel. So this is what the head of the legal team of Germany said in this regard. Let's take a look.
Germany has always been a strong supporter of the rights of the Palestinian people. This is, alongside Israel's security, the second principle that has guided Germany's response to the Middle East conflict in general and to its current escalation in particular. Germany has always been a strong supporter of the rights of the Palestinian people. This is, alongside Israel's security, the second principle that has guided Germany's response to the Middle East conflict in general and to its current escalation in particular.
So Germany is a strong supporter also of the Palestinian people. However, the weapons they deliver to Israel speaks volume, right? Gaza war. Where does Israel get its weapons? So if we see the chart here, I just want to little bit like this. So 65.6% of the weapons are coming from the United States, and around 30% of the weapons are coming from Germany, and around 5% are coming from Italy. So these three countries together constitute 100% of the weapons that Israel receives. So in the Germany's case, and this could be used as a legal argument, not the other one, they say that Germany is the next biggest arms exporter to Israel after the United States, accounting for 30% of imports between 2019 and 2023, according to the Stockholm Institute Peace Studies something. This was an institute. Anyways, as of early November, the European nations' weapons sales to Israel last year were worth 300 million euros. This was 10-fold increase compared to 2022. With the majority of those exports licenses granted after the October 7 attacks. So in 2022, the Germany's arm exports were around 30 million euros. And in 2023, this has increased to 300 million euros. And the majority of those export licenses were granted after the October 7 attacks. Components for air defense systems and communications equipment accounted for most of the sales, according to the DPA news agency. I don't know how true is this, but Germany could argue and say that we're delivering air defense systems, for example. But if you're delivering, let's say, ammunition for artillery shells or for the bombs that are falling over the heads of the Palestinians, then the Nicaraguan side could argue and say that you're complicit with what Israel is doing because you're sending attacking weapons or offensive weapons and not defensive weapons. Now, Germany also argued in the court that it is our duty to remind Israel that even when exercising its right to self-defense, international humanitarian law applies. And this was said in the ICJ by the representative of Germany.
You will recognize these quotes also from Nicaragua's presentation. You will recognize others. This is not surprising. They are not proof, as claimed by Nicaragua, that Germany is failing to live up to its responsibilities. On the contrary, calling for the adherence to international law does not constitute the manifestation of its breach. To us, these quotes prove that Germany is fulfilling its obligations to ensure respect for international humanitarian law. In a situation in which Israel is faced with ongoing attacks by Hamas terrorists who, long after 7 October, continue to fire rockets on Israeli towns and villages, and who still hold more than 100 Israeli men, women, and children hostage in Gaza. It is our duty to remind Israel that, even when exercising its right to self-defense, international humanitarian law applies. You will recognize these quotes also from Nicaragua's presentation. You will recognize others. This is not surprising. They are not proof, as claimed by Nicaragua, that Germany is failing to live up to its responsibilities. On the contrary, calling for the adherence to international law does not constitute the manifestation of its breach. To us, these quotes prove that Germany is fulfilling its obligations to ensure respect for international humanitarian law. In a situation in which Israel is faced with ongoing attacks by Hamas terrorists who, long after 7 October, continue to fire rockets on Israeli towns and villages, and who still hold more than 100 Israeli men, women, and children hostage in Gaza. It is our duty to remind Israel that, even when exercising its right to self-defense, international humanitarian law applies.
You know what's funny about this statement is that she argues that the German government has already reminded the Israeli side that you have to respect international law, like don't embarrass us in front of the other people, just try, If any other nation, just for an argument's sake, imagine this war, this carnage was caused by a country whose ruler is despised and disliked by the United States, Germany, European Union, etc., etc. There would be now a UN Security Council resolution for intervention in this country. There would be sanctions orgy against this country. The number of civilians killed in Ukraine compared to the Gaza Strip is uncomparable, right? And this is very tragic. The Russian side has killed civilians in Ukraine. And the entire, but compared to what's happening in the Gaza Strip, it's uncomparable, right? And all these European countries, including Germany, imposed sanctions on Russia. They are sending weapons to Ukraine to defend itself. And every day they are fantasizing of new ways how they are going to destroy Russia. But when Israel says that Palestinians are human animals, and I'm going to nuke them, and I'm going to exterminate them, I'm going to encourage what they say, voluntary migration from the Gaza Strip, basically ethnic cleansing, right? When the European leaders are going and American leaders are going to Egypt and telling Abdel Fattah al-Sisi that maybe you could receive the 2 million Palestinians from the Gaza Strip and I would give you billions of dollars to support your economy. That's a call for ethnic cleansing. You're being part of it, but you're doing it behind closed doors. You're not coming and being honest about it. You're just going under the table, trying to bribe the Egyptian government to receive the 2 million Palestinians so you help Israel to finish the job, right? Which is ethnic cleansing. Everybody knows that. So if Germany, the current government, really wants to warn and urge and encourage Israel to respect international law, they have to start with sanctioning Israel now. like they do with other countries, right? But they won't do that. So just reminding Israel that please respect international law. It's just, for me, it's just a BS, And Germany also today reminded the world that Israel is defending itself in the ICJ. And they say the German representative at the ICJ points out that international law doesn't block aid, including arms exports, to a state exercising self-defense. Take a look.
Common Article 1 and parallel customary law prohibits states from encouraging violations of IHL. However, this provision does not generate a negative obligation to refrain completely from military support to a state involved in an armed conflict. Common Article 1 does not and cannot block all transfer of aid to a state that might exercise its right to self-defense. Such a blanket prohibition would be nonsensical because it would be incompatible with every state's right to support countries acting in self-defense. Common Article 1 and parallel customary law prohibits states from encouraging violations of IHL. However, this provision does not generate a negative obligation to refrain completely from military support to a state involved in an armed conflict. Common Article 1 does not and cannot block all transfer of aid to a state that might exercise its right to self-defense. Such a blanket prohibition would be nonsensical.
So, according to the German the defense team, this delivery of arms to Israel are aid, military aid, support to Israel to defend itself, right? And some of you said already Israel doesn't have the right to defend itself. Now, she is presenting this case and this argument in front of the ICJ, which is the highest court, international court belonging to the United Nations. The UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories, she says that Israel doesn't have the right to defend itself because Israel is an occupation power, right? So the German team went to the ICJ, which is a UN court, and presented a legal argument that contradicts the official position of the UN itself, right? And this is what Francesca Albanese, she said in this regard. Israel cannot claim the right of self-defense against a threat that emanates from the territory that it occupies, that is kept under belligerent occupation. Take a look.
With your permission, I will clarify what is self-defense under international law, and so that everyone can understand, well, there is not such a thing that Israel could claim. So, in common language, self-defense might be understood as the right to protect oneself. But however, Article 51 of the UN Charter that Israel has invoked is not just the right to protect itself. It's self-defense under international law. It's a legal term of art and means the right to wage a war, which Israel doesn't have. And this is consolidated jurisprudence of the supreme judicial organ of the United Nations. I understand that the state practice might diverge, United States and Iraq, but the law remains the law, and this is what we should follow. So the right of self-defense can be invoked when a state is threatened by another state, which is not the case. Israel has not claimed that has been threatened by another state. It's been threatened by an armed group. Qualify it the way you want, but it's an armed group within the occupied territory. And frankly, even saying the war between Gaza and Israel is wrong, because Gaza is not a standalone entity, it's part of the occupied territory. But so, in particular, Israel cannot claim the right of self-defense against a threat that emanates from the territory it occupies, from a territory that is kept under belligerent occupation. And this is not only this exists in the jurisprudence of the ICJ in general, it's also been said in the case of the occupied Palestinian territory.
So, guys, according to the UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories, Israel cannot claim the right of self-defense against a threat that emanates from the territory that it occupies, that is kept under belligerent occupation, and Gaza is part of an occupied territory. And any threat that comes from an armed group on an occupied territory, Israel cannot claim to be defending itself on an occupied territory, right? So this is the case, and this is being recognized by the ICJ itself, and let's see what the judges will rule about this case. Now, just final statement from the German representative at the ICJ that she said that Germany strives to do justice to both sides in the conflict, and this is, to be honest, very ridiculous. As we speak, there is an Israeli flag flying on the German federal government now. And in every corner of the city here in Berlin, any government corner you go, or any government building, there is a Ukraine flag and there is an Israeli flag. You cannot claim that you are striving to bring justice for both sides when you are raising the flag of the Israeli flag. So if you are neutral in this case, then I would at least argue that there should be also Palestinian flag flying over your government buildings. Let alone, why are you even flying foreign flags over your government buildings anyway? There is no German flags, but there are Ukraine flags, and you have the Israeli flags, and you have the LGBT flags everywhere. It's a little bit weird for me as someone who comes from the Middle East, see the more foreign flags than the actual country's flag. And if someone puts the flag, the German flag, then they, oh my God, my neighbor has become an ultra-nationalist. All eyes become like the eye roll against him. The Nicaraguan side, they made a short statement after this again today, and they say in this case, the actions are being committed by Israel, but they are public. We know about it. It is absolutely impossible to say that we are not aware of what is happening, and we have the obligation.
Happening is public. It's public knowledge. In this case, the actions are being committed by Israel, but they are public. We know about it. It is absolutely impossible to say that we are not aware of what is happening, and we have the obligation to prevent it. If that obligation exists, then here we are.
So we cannot wait for the court to say that Israel has committed a genocide for the third countries to have an obligation to follow suit or adopt the Genocide Convention or protect the Genocide Convention. Because if you're a signatory of a Genocide Convention, you have to play an active role in preventing genocide when it's happening. And what's happening, according to him, in the Gaza Strip is very public. The Israelis are very public about what they're doing there. And I mean, even if they are not public, the footage is very clear, right? The 2 million people have been displaced, and the number of the Palestinians are 2.2 million. So out of 2.2 million, 2 million have been displaced. And the demolition of the houses are, if you see the satellite images, they've been carpet bombed. It's now more than Dresden, right? You cannot really come and argue against it. You know that it's happening. So you have to prevent it. You cannot come and say that, oh, the ICJ didn't decide yet, didn't take a decision. No, you have to prevent it, right? When it's happening. You cannot claim that there is no ruling, because the ICJ said already that there is a plausible case in this regard. Now, this is, let's say, the prejudice of the whatever is happening here in Germany against the Palestinians. It's not only against the Palestinians or against the people who are sympathetic with the people in Gaza. It's also against the Jewish people. The Jewish Germans or any Jewish person who shows solidarity with the Palestinians is being cancelled. And one of these examples are, recently, this was only a few days ago, less than 1 week, University of Cologne withdrew its invitation to Nancy Fraser to take up its 2024 Albertus Magnus Professorship, a visiting position that the university considers a special honor because Professor Frasser had been one of the several hundred signatories of the Philosophy for Palestine open letter published last November. So in last November, this was a letter published, and this was a call to philosophers to stand in solidarity with Palestine against apartheid and occupation. And philosophy professors across North America, Latin America, and Europe called to support the academic and cultural boycott of Israeli institutions and to speak out fearlessly to advance the cause of the Palestinian liberation and justice for all. And she has signed this letter, and she is a Jewish German, and she has been cancelled now in Germany. And this is a little bit ironic, right? And she was recently on a YouTube channel belonging to Hanno Hauenstein, so credit goes to him. He lives also in Berlin, and he hosted her, and he says, as Nancy Frasser spoke to me about her recent cancellation at the University of Cologne, she explained why she considers Germany's unconditional allegiance to Israel to be a betrayal and why she is far from repentant about signing open letters in solidarity with Palestine.
It's so important that Germans understand something of the complexity and breadth of Judaism, its history, its perspective.
Mm-hmm.
They're sort of signing on with this idea of unconditional, pledge of allegiance to Israel as the state, that's the German responsibility, unqualified support for the state of Israel. This is at the same time, under current conditions, given what Israel is up to, is a betrayal of what I would call, the most important and weighty aspects of Judaism as a history and a perspective and a body of thought. And I'm talking about the Judaism of Maimonides and of Spinoza and of Freud and Heinrich Heine and Ernst Bloch. And we could go on and on.
Can you specify that? Why is that sort of like standing against this tradition of Judaism?
Because this tradition of Judaism is reducing Judaism to not just nationalism, but a hyper ultra nationalism of a sort that is trampling, is basically destroying the Gaza Strip. And I just signed another letter. I'm not repentant. I just signed another letter against Israeli, this is an interesting word, scholasticide, meaning the destruction of schools, of universities. Over 100 professors have been killed. 9 university presidents have been killed in Gaza. So there's anyway. This is this version of what it means to express, respect and support.
By the way, she's very correct on the university thing, for example. Did you know that all of the 12 universities in Gaza have been the target of Israeli attacks? So the higher education establishments in the Palestinian enclave have endured damage or complete destruction by Israeli forces. 3 presidents and nearly 100 deans and professors have so far been killed in the bombardment. And this is a report by Le Monde, right? Le Monde, the French magazine. And they say being accepted at the University of Palestine in Gaza provided the gateway to independence. They're just speaking about all the experiences of the people who used to study in these universities. And eventually, 12 universities that existed in the Gaza Strip all have been destroyed by Israeli side. And there is no excuse about that. And everybody knows about it, right? The reports are there. The evidence is there. So coming and saying that they don't know what Israel is doing and just asking them nicely not to do what they're doing in the Gaza Strip is sick, in my opinion. So since I mentioned sick, I just want to show you someone who is really sick and in my opinion is a psychopath. And I truly think that this guy, his loyalty is to Israel and not to the United States. He's an allegedly American. And he says the Biden administration is now effectively preparing to make aid to Israel contingent on unspecified changes to Israeli policy, which means that Israel can do little or nothing to appease the White House. Hamas is now in control of the Biden administration. How can somebody be this much of clown and claim that Hamas is in control of the Biden administration and keep his job seriously? What type of intellectual can even write something like this on Twitter and just not to be challenged? And Jackson Hinkle says, if Hamas is in control of the Biden administration, why did Biden just approve $18 billion in bombs for Israel? Daniel says, don't you think Biden is a filthy anti-Semite, Ben? Just like Candace, right? Since you're quite obviously Israel first, nothing second, and America third, what's stopping you from moving to Israel, putting on the steel helmet, and confronting the enemy face to face? Yeah, like the people are really spitting on his face. Hamas controls the Oval Office. Ben Shapiro, the man who released a book entitled Facts Don't Care About Your Feelings. Can the world finally see this clown for what he is? He is everything he pretends to criticize, but just on the right. 100% correct. 100% correct in this case. Now, one more thing about the Israel-Palestine case. The ambassador or the permanent envoy of the Israeli side to the UN, he opposed the recognition of Palestine as a full member at the UN and said the Palestinians do not meet the criteria for statehood. The Palestinian Authority is the complete opposite of a peace-seeking entity. It pays terrorists and murderers salaries of thousands of dollars a month, including the Hamas killers who participated in the October 7 massacre. The Palestinian Authority doesn't even control Gaza and other parts of its territory. This will be a Palestine Nazi state. Disgraceful. The projection. Do you want to see the video? I will show you the video. This is really hilarious. This guy, I cannot believe that someone like this with this IQ can be the permanent envoy of Israel to the UN.
And a very important principle that was stated in Article 4 of the UN Charter is, and I quote, membership in the United Nations is open to all peace-loving states. Peace-loving. Nothing is clearer than the fact that the Palestinians failed to meet these criteria. The Palestinian Authority is itself the antithesis of a peace-loving entity. Colleagues, for many years, the PA, the Palestinian Authority, has been paying terrorists for their murderous terror attacks. This is not customary. It is Palestinian legislation. According to the Palestinian law, Palestinian terrorists are paid monthly salaries for murdering Israelis. Internalize it. These salaries can reach thousands of dollars each month, and they are on a rising scale. The longer the prison sentence you get, the higher the salary. You murdered more Jews, you get more money.
This guy can just lie with a straight face. By the way, the Palestinian Authority is a collaborator with the Israeli side. And the Palestinian Authority under Mahmoud Abbas, they collaborate with the CIA, they collaborate with the Mossad. They are more pro-Israeli than the Israelis themselves, and they persecute anyone who send them to jail and even kill them under torture. Those who call for resistance against the Israeli occupation forces. And it's just so sad that the Palestinian Authority is in this shape. You know, they are very, 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 in my opinion, corrupt. And so even the Palestinian Authority, which on a security level collaborates with the Israeli side, they are terrorists. So Hamas is terrorist, the Palestinian Authority is supporting the terrorists, which means eventually, what's the butter of the issue, we say in Arabic? Shu zibde? Zibde, the butter is that there can't be a Palestinian statehood. We will prevent the Palestinian statehood from recognition, and we will occupy every inch in Palestine, including the West Bank, East Jerusalem, the Gaza Strip. We will just create an Israeli ethno-state, and then we will kick out the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip so that 2 million people are less. And then we try to strangle the rest of the Palestinians, which they're already doing, in the West Bank, and build more settlements and bring more settlers from all around the world. And then in a decade, 2, 3, just finish everything, you know? This is the goal. This is ethnic cleansing, right? So we still have 5 more minutes, and I would like to cover what the Iranian foreign minister said. And the Iranian foreign minister was in Syria, by the way, yesterday. And he made a statement from Damascus saying that America is responsible for the terrorist attack in Damascus, and the Zionist entity, according to him, will be punished. And Syrian foreign minister said Syria stands firmly with the resistance and supports all Arab and Palestinian resistance forces. And this was, of course, after this bombardment of the Iranian consulate in Damascus, and Abdullahian was in Damascus and met with the Syrian president. Apparently, they're coordinating some response against the Israeli attacks, and the Iranian side always coordinates with Damascus if there is any sort of response that may come from the Syrian territory, for example, or in the region, or they are checking what could be the repercussions on Syria if Iran responds. So they're just coordinating, and this is what he said in this regard.
با صدای بلند اعلام بکنم آمریکا در این حادثه مسئولیت دارد و باید پاسخگو باشد. رژیم اسرائیل تنبیه خواهد شد. هذا يعني أن هذه القضايا لا يمكن أن تعالج إعلاميا إلا في الوقت المناسب. لذلك أعيد التأكيد على أن سوريا تقف بشكل حازم مع المقاومة وتدعم كل قوى المقاومة عربيا وفلسطينيا.
So according to the foreign minister of Iran, Israel will be punished. Let's see how is going to be the type and nature of this response against Israel. But also Abdullahian, because he blamed the United States as well. The US claims and says that they had nothing to do with this attack. They didn't know anything about it. But if we remember the Wall Street Journal report, this was only a few months ago, right? And this was only a few months ago saying US secretly reviews Israel's plans for strikes against Iranian targets in Syria. This was from June 2022, and they say Israel secretly coordinates with the US on many of the airstrikes it carries out in Syria, as the allies face a battlefield crowded with militant groups, Iranian-backed militias, and foreign militaries, according to current and former US officials. American officials have said little about Israel's bombing missions, which have been aimed at interrupting Tehran's flow of advanced weapons to Lebanese Hezbollah and diminishing Iran's military forces and proxies in Syria. Behind the scenes, however, many of Israel's missions for several years have been reviewed in advance for approval by senior officials at the US Central Command and at the Pentagon. So maybe the Iranians know something about this, and they're also blaming the Americans. And Americans told, like, they have nothing to do with it. The Iranians saying that the Americans are responsible as well. And we have this report. So you connect the dots. And we have to wait a few more days or weeks probably to see the type of response of Iran. And accordingly, we try to analyze them after it happens. So what do you think is going to be the response of Iran, guys? Please let me know in the comments below. And also let me know about the defense team or the defense arguments of the German side. Were they conclusive? Were they convincing to you or not? Or the Nicaraguan side was more conclusive and more convincing? Your opinions matter to me. And by the way, on Thursday, Pepe Escobar is coming on Syriana Analysis. I can confirm that now. We're going to discuss different issues, of course, in West Asia and also Eurasia, in Ukraine. So if you have any questions, please post them in the comments below on Thursday, 5 p.m. Central European Time, 11 a.m. Eastern American Time. Tomorrow, we're going to do, of course, another live streaming at the same time. But until then, guys, before leaving this live streaming, I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe to this YouTube channel. And if you want to support the independent journalistic work that I'm doing, you can become a patron. The link is scrolling on the screen, patreon.com/Syriana Analysis. And I will see you tomorrow. Peace be upon you, upon your families. Salam.